Thank you very much. It's certainly my pleasure, our pleasure to be here tonight. What I'm going to do, as Carol mentioned, is just give you a little bit of sort of set the scene what Battery Park City is. A lot of you probably know, but many of you may not know. So I'm going to give you some general background about the authority and what we are. And we are a state authority, and we think we owe a great debt to Governor Pataki for his leadership as those environmental guidelines for the residential guidelines came out in 2000 and were followed 2 years later by the commercial guidelines. This is Battery Park City today, as you look at it, in Lower Manhattan on the west side, right across from the World Trade Center site. This is what it used to look like. Back in the 50s, it was a series of shipping piers, many of which were rotting, which shows a good example of that right here. As airplane travel supplanted passenger ship travel, the piers became dilapidated. And these gentlemen, Governor Rockefeller on the left, Harry Helmsley in the middle, and Charlie Erstad on the right. Charlie was the president of first president of the Battery Park City Authority. He's our current vice president, still with us. They determined that they would take those rotting piers, sweep them away, create 92 acres of landfill, and build something. And they're looking at an early model of what Battery Park City was supposed to look like. It was a rather futuristic sort of model. It was never built that way. Went through a couple of subsequent master plans and ended up what we have now. If you look at this, you'll see on the left the outline of the landfill, those 92 acres that Battery Park City is, and how it sits close to the rest of Manhattan, Lower Manhattan. Here's the landfill being built. This is probably, I'm thinking late 60s or probably early 70s. You can see the World Trade Centers. About a third of the landfill actually came from the excavation for the Trade Center site, and the rest was general landfill. That's Battery Park City being created. Again, another view of Battery Park City. Our current statistics: we've got 92 acres, we've got 8.5 million square feet of commercial space, mainly the World Financial Center towers. We've got 9,000 residential units. About a third of Battery Park City is parkland, which is very I think forward-thinking of those original designers. They determined not to cram every inch of space with building, but to keep really well over a third of it as public space. We have 2 schools, the SKYSCRAPER Museum, of course, as you know, but also the Museum of Jewish Heritage, the Police Memorial, we have a marina, we have 2 hotels. So there's a lot going on there. It's a very well-rounded community, and here's a nice view of the Winter Garden in the World Financial Center, and this just tells you about some of our tenants. And we did end up with an architectural plan that really got away from that original futuristic concept, which might have made Battery Park City look a little bit like the Albany Mall, but we ended up with something that really is a little more traditional. You can see our streetscapes here. But the reason we're here tonight is to talk about the environmental sustainable guidelines. And in the year 2000 is when the residential guidelines were developed. And here you can see a list of a number of the people who helped us. And there was a tremendous collaborative effort in putting together those residential guidelines in the year 2000, and then again 2 years later the commercial guidelines. And the purpose is very simple. The purpose of the guidelines is to establish a process for the creation of environmentally responsible residential buildings that are appreciably ahead of current standards and practices of development. That's important because these guidelines are always moving. The guidelines now are not what the guidelines were back in 2000. In fact, the standard changes with every building. When the Solaire was built, it was the first sustainable building. A residential high-rise, I should say, and as the Albanese organization puts up their 3rd building, the standards for that building will be far ahead of the standards of the first one they built. We're always trying to push the envelope. The environmental sustainability guidelines really fall into these categories: energy efficiency, as you might imagine, enhanced indoor environmental quality, and energy efficiency, we're I believe 30% more efficient than New York City code. Increased daylighting, I think Carol talked about that. 5% of the energy has to be generated on site. Buildings have photovoltaics. They have cogeneration facilities. Enhanced indoor environmental quality. All of the air is filtered. You can open the buildings in our sustainable residential high-rises if you want, but you're probably better off if you don't. If you keep those windows shut, you will get air that has been twice filtered. The air comes into the building. 85% of all particulates are taken out by one filter. Gets to your particular living unit. There's a second filter. It is humidified or dehumidified depending on the season, so you're getting really the most breathable air you will find anywhere in New York. The third guideline relates to conserving materials and resources. We recycle most of our building materials. We require that a very high percentage of the buildings themselves be made of recycled materials. The woods have to be certified woods, uses sustainable materials, whether it's bamboo flooring or honeysuckle wall material. There's an incredible array of products out there now, and I think we've helped create the market for that. We ask that a large percentage of the building materials come from a 500-mile radius to cut down on energy use in transportation. The fourth guideline, operations and maintenance, that's key because if you put in equipment that conserves energy, you have to maintain it. So we do require proper commissioning and maintenance. And the fifth one is water conservation and site management. We do require a black water recycling system now. All the water goes in the black water system, which is nothing less than a miniature treatment plant in the basement of the building. And it is reused for purposes such as air conditioning, to use again in the toilets, for irrigation. So that's been a very, very successful aspect. Here is the Solaire, which I'm sure you're going to hear a lot more later. But it's a very, it's a great looking building, and you can, if you look, you can see those little blue panels. Those are the photovoltaics. Here's an example of our green roofs. We do require green roofs to help diminish the heat island effect. And not only do they do that, but they provide a great amenity for the residents in most cases. This is a schematic of our water reclamation system, which you'll find in all the basements of the buildings. It really is a complete multi-stage sewage treatment plant in the building. And again, it's something that when the Solaire went up, it's something that New York City would not allow. They didn't allow the concept of the black water treatment plant. Now they've not only come to agree that it's a good thing, but they actually will give builders a credit for building them. So it's certainly an area where I think the market has changed. Here's a good view of the photovoltaics. We're always pushing the envelope on that. Photovoltaics are becoming more and more efficient. And the latest building we're talking about, we're actually exploring the idea of photovoltaics that don't just sit on the building, but will actually move in relation to the sun to try and draw every little available bit of energy. Whether we'll be successful in installing those or not, we don't know, but they are used in Europe. We'd sure like to see them used here in New York. We use sustainable landscape practices. You won't find any pesticides or anything other than natural substances in our parks in Battery Park City. It's a little more expensive. It's certainly more work, but we think the end product is well worth it. This gives you an idea of where we are. Some of these buildings are up, some aren't. Starting on the top left, Tribeca Green, that's up. Middle on the left, that's site 1617, the Sheldrake Corporation. They're working on their foundation now. Site 3, that is not even a foundation yet, but it will be soon. On the top right, the Verdesian, that is up and people are in it. In the middle, you have the rendering of the new Goldman Sachs world headquarters. The foundations are being dug for that now. And then you have lower right, the Millennium Towers, which is under construction. So that's the present and the future of Battery Park City in terms of sustainable construction. And we leave you with one final shot of Battery Park City as it looks today. And I think the overall lesson for this is that government can make a tremendous difference. But, it wouldn't be enough just for us to say, well, because we're a government agency, we are going to make you build green. The idea was to not just make people build green, but to show that it made sense economically. And over the years, and it's a short number of years, we're here in 2006, and we began this in 2000. And I think I saw Tim Carey come in. I'm not sure. It's dark. I think I saw Tim, who was the president when these environmental guidelines were introduced to sneak in the back, has come a long way. The incremental cost of building green has come down tremendously. And we feel now that builders, and hopefully we'll hear this message in a little bit, we feel that the development community has come to understand that it makes economic sense to build green. You don't have to build green at Battery Park City just because we make you. We like to think that developers see the economic benefit in building green. They certainly get higher rents. We think they will get higher prices for condominiums. And certainly the beneficial effect on the environment is immeasurable. So that is the overall introduction to Battery Park City. I think Raphael Pelli is our next speaker.